Alberta's only member of the Liberal cabinet willfully pretended to be Indigenous. He shouldn't be in cabinet. Of course, I know there are slim pickings among Alberta Liberals. You're either with the pretender or the porch pirate. But Madam Speaker, this minister certainly should be out of cabinet. As a consequence of his pretense, the company that he co-owned also pretended to be Indigenous owned, and this pretense was used to advance the minister's political image and potentially to advance his private commercial interests as well. Now that he has been found out, the minister should offer a more fulsome and sincere apology than the one he offered on Friday, and he should resign or remove from cabinet. Speaker, I have an Instagram post that the Liberal Party put out in 2016, one of many examples of things published at the time and since that make very clear how this minister was being positioned. The post in question proudly highlights that apparently the Liberals had elected the largest number of Indigenous MPs ever, and it includes a picture that shows the Indigenous Liberal caucus, photos of 9 MPs, one of whom is the current Minister of Employment. The minister has most recently claimed that he participated in the activities of the Indigenous Liberal caucus, but only as an ally. In other words, he says he never pretended to be Indigenous. He just happened to be the one and only white guy that happened to be invited to an organization that identified as the Indigenous Liberal caucus. Oh, obviously, that's not passing a pretty basic smell test. You have a post saying that the Liberals had elected a significant number of Indigenous MPs, accompanied by a collection of photos of MPs. That would surely be designed to give the impression that those MPs are Indigenous. Why in the world would this minister be the one white guy in an otherwise all-Indigenous club that was repeatedly publicly identified as an all-Indigenous club unless he was trying to create the impression that he was Indigenous? But you don't actually even need those Liberal Party social media posts to see the problem. Let's look even at the minister's own words in this House. In 2016, he described himself as an adopted Cree. In 2018, he switched to calling himself a non-status adopted Cree and a member of the Indigenous caucus. As recently as a year ago, the minister told the House, "My Cree name means strong eagle man." There can surely be no doubt what this was supposed to convey, even as he was also talking about Métis family members and admitting alternatively that he was neither. Now, the thing is, listening to the minister's damage control now, he sounds a lot like the Prime Minister. When pressed on the point of misidentification at a press conference on Friday, he said on the one hand that the Liberal Party had misunderstood, that he apologized if anyone was confused, and that he's learning about his family history in real time. He did not at any point actually admit wrongdoing. He later said, "I'm going to continue this journey, and I will share this journey with Canadians as I continue down that path." He sounded much like a prime minister who thought a groping scandal was just a matter of someone experiencing things differently, and who thought his own repeated wearing of racist costumes was a learning opportunity for the rest of us. The minister says he's on a journey, but actually I think the journey that most people want this minister to take is first to the backbenches and then out of Parliament entirely.
I have a point of order. The Honourable Minister of International Development.
Yes, Madam Speaker, thank you. On a point of order, the following questions will be answered today. 3003, 3010, 3019, 3024, 3026, 3031, 3033, and 3036. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, if the government's responses to questions number 2999 to 3002, 3004 to 3009, 3011 to 3018, 3020 to 3023, 3025, 3027 to 3030, 3032, 3034, 3035, 3037, and 3038 could be made orders for return. These returns would be tabled in an electronic format immediately. Thank you.
Is it the House agree that the questions be tabled and it be tabled immediately? Agreed. Agreed and so ordered.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Madam Speaker, I think it's worth recalling that on March 1st, 2018, the Minister of Employment told this House, quote, "Never let the truth get in the way of a good story." He actually said that in the House of Commons. He said, "Never let the truth get in the way of a good story." And that's really what's going on here. The minister from Edmonton didn't want to let the truth get in the way of what he thought would be a good political story. But why exactly were these claims made? Why did the Liberal Minister of Employment falsely claim to be Indigenous? Now, perhaps this is another Liberal example of the Miriam Monsef method, selectively claiming to be unaware of key personal facts in order to help develop a more elaborate origin story. Well, once upon a time, there were three brothers, Remus, Romulus, and Randy, born of a union between the god Mars and a mortal, nursed in the woods by a wolf. And after the brothers grew up, a lethal struggle for dominance ensued. Then one of the brothers founded the great city of Rome. And after founding Rome, he traveled halfway around the world to join the Liberal cabinet. In other myths, he is identified as the son of Janus, the Roman god with two faces. Although as more comes out, two faces may actually not be enough. He is the man, the myth, the minister. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. But efforts at exaggerated personal myth-making may not be all there is to it. You see, at present, we are prosecuting the Liberals' Indigenous contracting scandal, a scandal in which many companies made false or misleading claims about Indigenous identity or developed creative arrangements to position themselves as technically Indigenous without actually providing substantive economic benefit or opportunity to Indigenous peoples. For those who haven't been following it, this is the scandal. Liberals established a 5% target and set aside 5% of government contracts had to go to Indigenous companies. So what necessarily flows from having this kind of target is the need to define who is an Indigenous company. This kind of work defining Indigenous companies is going on elsewhere because it's not just governments that are looking to include Indigenous business with procurement opportunities. Many private sector companies, especially in the energy sector, are looking to procure more from Indigenous businesses and include Indigenous businesses in their supply chains. For private sector companies, they're not looking to just check a legal box. They're doing this voluntarily because it's good business and because it gives impacted communities a greater stake in the success of projects. Private sector proponents, though not perfect, have sought ways to define in an authentic way who are Indigenous businesses and the extent to which there are real positive economic impacts in the communities they want to work with. There are currently various organizations, such as the Canadian Council of Indigenous Business, that work with the private sector to help identify and support Indigenous businesses. I've also met with the Indigenous Chamber of Commerce in Winnipeg, such as the Canadian Council of Indigenous Business, that work with the private sector to help identify and support Indigenous businesses. I've also met with the Indigenous Chamber of Commerce in Winnipeg, that the employment minister's company was actually falsely trying to position itself as Indigenous. With this in mind, we need to get to the bottom of what's happening Madam Speaker, and I move, seconded by the member for Battle River Crowfoot, that the motion be amended by deleting all of the words after the word that and substituting the following. The second report of the Standing Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs presented on Monday, April 25th, 2022 be not now concurred in, but that it be recommitted to the committee for further consideration with a view to studying the economic and anti-reconciliation barriers posed by fraudulent bids and applications for procurement opportunities set aside for Indigenous businesses, including those from...
I have a point of order. I think I know what it's about, but
The honourable member for Drummond. Madam Speaker, I think that the member knows very well that the interpreters have to do their work, and when he's trying to, move along at Olympic speed, it makes it very hard for them. So if he could slow down, please, to allow the interpreters to do their work. Thank you.
So the whole issue is that the translated that there may be problems with the translation because of the fact that the honourable member is actually speeding through his amendment. There is still a minute and a half left. I'm sure that the honourable member can slow down and make sure that everybody in the House is able to hear the amendment. Unless the interpreters already have that amendment before them, then it might be something that they'll be able to do. But I would ask the honourable member to please slow down in order to make sure that everyone has the amendment.
Just on the same point of order.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park for Saskatchewan.
Just on the same point of order, if there's agreement of the House that I'll be able to finish the amendment, then I'm happy to take the time necessary.
Finish the amendment as long as you had started your amendment before the time had ended. Perfect. So the honourable member, if he could please slow down so that everyone, including those who are listening at home to the translation, are able to hear that. The honourable member for Sherwood Park for Saskatchewan. I would just say, slow down, but not to the point where it slows down the whole process.
Sure, Madam Speaker. My only goal was to ensure we got it in. So shall I start from the top, I suppose? I move, seconded by the member for Battle River Crowfoot, that the motion be amended by deleting all of the words after the word that and substituting the following. The second report of the Standing Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs presented on Monday, April 25th, 2022, be not now concurred in, but that it be recommitted to the committee for further consideration with a view to studying the economic and anti-reconciliatory barriers posed by fraudulent bids and applications for procurement opportunities set aside for Indigenous businesses, including those from non-Indigenous owned companies, provided that for the purposes of this study, A, the following be ordered to appear as witnesses for at least 2 hours each at dates and times to be fixed by the chair of the committee, but no later than Tuesday, December 17, 2024. 1, the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Official Languages. 2, the Minister of Indigenous Services. 3, the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations. 4, the Minister of Public Services and Procurement and Quebec Lieutenant. 5, Ariane Reza, Deputy Minister of Public Services and Procurement. 6, Catherine Poulin, Assistant Deputy Minister, Departmental Oversight Branch, Department of Public Works and Government Services. B, Felix Papineau and Shauna Parker, individuals currently or formerly associated with Global Health Imports, shall each be ordered to appear as witnesses separately for at least 1 hour each at dates and times to be fixed by the chair of the committee, but no later than Tuesday, December 17, 2024. And C, it be an instruction that the committee, I, hold at least 4 other meetings to receive evidence from Indigenous partners, stakeholders, and experts proposed by the members of the committee. And 2, report its findings to the House by Friday, January 31st, 2025. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Genius, seconded by Mr. Couric, moves the following amendment: that the motion be amended by deleting all the words after the word that and substituting the following. The second report of the Standing Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs presented on Monday, April 25th, 2022 be not now concurred in, but that it be recommitted to the committee for further consideration with a view to studying the economic and anti-reconciliatory barriers posed by fraudulent bids and applications for procurement opportunities set aside for Indigenous businesses, including those from non-Indigenous owned companies, provided that for the purpose of the study, A, the following be ordered to appear as witnesses for at least 2 hours, each at dates and times to be fixed by the chair of the committee, but not later than Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. 1, the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Official Languages. 2, the Minister of Indigenous Services. 3, the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations. 4, the Minister of Public Services and Procurement in Quebec, Lieutenant. 5, Ariane Reza, Deputy Minister of Public Services and Procurement. 6, Catherine Poulin, Assistant Deputy Minister, Departmental Oversight Branch, Department of Public Works and Government Services. B, Felix Papineau and Shauna Parker, individuals currently or formerly associated with Global Health Imports, shall each be ordered to appear as witnesses separately for at least 1 hour each at dates and times to be fixed by the chair of the committee, but no later than Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. And it be an instruction that the committee, 1, hold at least 4 other meetings to receive evidence from Indigenous partners, stakeholders, and experts proposed by the members of the committee. 2, report its finding to the House by Friday, January 31st, 2025. The amendment is in order. Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. There's no doubt in terms of the importance of the issue. What I do call into question is that the Conservatives continue to play this game of preventing, whether it's opposition day motions to government legislation, to private members' bills, from being able to be debated inside the chamber. Instead, they're focusing on the privileges. In order to give themselves a break on the privileges, then they bring in the concurrence reports. My question to my colleague across the way, does he not feel any sort of obligation whatsoever to maybe question the leader of the Conservative Party and the self-serving tactic that they're actually using on the floor of the House of Commons? Because it seems to me they're more interested in the Conservative Party and the leader of the Conservative Party's ambitions than they are about the concerns of Canadians.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Madam Speaker, actually, it's this member in particular who seems to be very concerned with talking about the leader of the Conservative Party. But it's quite striking to hear him talk about self-serving tactics. You have a situation where a minister of the Crown, a Liberal minister, pretended to be Indigenous. And as a result of that pretense, his company sought contracts with the government on the basis of falsely claiming to be Indigenous owned. That is incredibly inappropriate, self-serving, and it hurts Indigenous entrepreneurs and Indigenous communities that are supposed to benefit. This is a critically important issue, an issue that the government used to describe as relating to the most important relationship, but clearly it's not important enough in the view of the Parliamentary Secretary. But I think this is an important discussion, and Conservatives will continue to work to get to the bottom of the abuses in the Indigenous contracting program in general, and to hold this minister accountable for his despicable actions and abuses of the public trust.
Some comments, the honourable for Timmins, James Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think it's been it's been a dismal experience watching the member for Edmonton Centre. He's been like an ethical dumpster fire from the first day he walked in here. And I say that because it's been one issue after another, one red flag after another, and yet he got moved up into cabinet. I know there's some hardworking Liberals who would never get in your cabinet, but he got in your cabinet. But there's something very egregious about this, because the issue of hundreds of years of deeply racist policies that have tried to destroy Indigenous life, Indigenous culture, the Indigenous ability to live on the land. We finally get one program that's going to be fair. And what do we see? We see grifters taking advantage of what should be a profound commitment to reconciliation. And the fact that grifter number one may be sitting in the cabinet, to me, calls on the Prime Minister to take action. And yet he's still standing there refusing to explain how he got into this position in the first place.
Honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Madam Speaker, for the first time in our parliamentary careers, I find myself agreeing with everything that the member for Timmins James Bay just said. And I think that was a call from that member and from the NDP also for this minister to be removed from cabinet. Of course, he needs to be removed from cabinet. I mean, what a contrast we see, Madam Speaker. On the one hand, the first Indigenous Attorney General was removed from the Liberal caucus for refusing to enable Liberal corruption in the SNC-Lavalin affair. And then you have an incredibly corrupt employment minister who was pretending to be Indigenous elevated to cabinet. And I hope we'll have the NDP support to continue to fight to get to the bottom of this at every committee, to send this back to the committee, ordering the minister himself to appear so that we can hold him accountable.
We have time for a brief question. The honourable member Toronto St. Paul.
Madam Speaker, while the government was worrying about their exposure of their unethical behavior, there was a blue wave sweeping across the country. The Toronto Argonauts were beating the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I congratulate the Toronto Argonauts, their quarterback, Nick Arbuckle, and head coach, Ryan Dinwiddie, on this remarkable win. My father was a football referee for 35 years. And you know what he would say now? He would say, I'm throwing the flag on the government's accountability metrics, assigning a 15-yard penalty and loss of downs for their absence of management. And when the Liberals refuse to play by the rules, he would add, there's another 5 yards for unsportsmanlike conduct. My question is this ethical lapse another demonstration of a top-down lack of ethics in the Liberal government?
Brief answer from the honourable member Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There's actually early reports out that the Minister of Employment was trying to get into the game for free by pretending to be Prince William. I don't know if that's Prince Harry. That's Prince Harry. Well, okay, or both actually, both. Madam Speaker, kidding aside, this is a very serious issue, and this minister needs to be held accountable. He needs to resign for his deplorable conduct, and we need to continue to do the work at committee to get to the bottom of these outrageous abuses, taking advantage of these programs by elite privileged insiders pretending to be Indigenous, including right up to the cabinet.
Resuming debate, the honourable parliamentary secretary.